your Sunday morning dose of common sense with Candy. Each week we touch on different topics, and each topic builds on the last topic. This is our fourth week, and today's topic is on elections. And, well, let's just get started right away. You do know by now that I type everything out and then I read it to you so that I don't misspeak, get my tongue tangled, which I tend to do frequently. So, we're going to start out with something you'll think, well, what in the world does this have to do with election? You need to pay attention because everything builds. Who's the cabal? By definition, I'm sure you've heard that thrown around a few times. By definition, a cabal is a group of people who are united in some close design, usually to promote their private views or interest in an ideology, a state, or another community, often by intrigue and usually unbeknownst to those who are outside their group. Who is a deep state? I've heard that term thrown around quite a bit lately. By definition, it is a conspiracy theory which suggests the collusion exists within the U.S. political system and constitute a hidden government within the legitimacy elected government. Are they not one and the same? Did you take the time to watch Hillary's America by Souza? And if you did, you'll understand what the plan means. You understand why people say if you tell a lie long enough and often enough, people believe it. And really, that's brainwashing or mind control. And just as an example, toilet paper commercials on TV. You see the same one, the one that you see the most often. Is it really that much better than one that you don't see? Maybe the one that doesn't advertise as much is a little less expensive because they don't spend so much money in advertising. And you've tested both products, and the cheaper one, in some cases, is even better than the one that's branded all over TV. That's just one example. This is when I was in college, I started out in advertising for this reason because I thought I could do a lot better than what I saw on TV. So, the thing of it is, that's a type of mind control or brain control. You're seeing the same things over and over and over and over, and after a while, you tend to just believe it, whether it's true or not. We all must admit that the cabal or deep state has been extremely clever and very devious in their plans. This has been going on for years and years. This is nothing new. They just got caught this time. And as the years go on, this group, the cabal, elites, deep states, whatever you want to call them, they just become bolder and bolder in all of their strategies. When you own all of the social media and news media, you control everything. It's called propaganda. Something when I went to school we heard was only in other countries. It's very disconcerting to me at my age to find out it's been going on here. By definition, propaganda is communication that is primarily used to influence an audience and further an agenda, which may not be objective and may be selectively presenting facts in order to encourage a particular perception, or using loaded language in order to produce an emotional rather than a rational response to the information that is being presented. In the 60s, we had a president who was murdered by his own people. Why would that happen in a supposedly free country? Because that president was JFK, and he was about to expose the cabal or deep state. Little did he know that the heads of his own federal agencies were part of this cabal. Fast forward 6 decades, and a man outside the cabal decided he could finish the job that JFK started. Little did he know just how deep and corrupt that swamp was. It includes heads of three-letter agencies, politicians, celebrities, musicians, uh, a lot of some sports people, and it includes many Luciferians. In other words, people who worship Satan as their God. If you want to understand just how deep this goes, here at home as well as globally, spend some time on Robert David Steele's site. That's Robert David Steele, and Steele is Steele. The bottom line is that several attempts have been made to take him out and other members of the first family, just like they did to JFK. Once you understand the depth of that, then you'll start comprehending that COVID-19 was a bioweapon. It had been planned for years. It was the timing of the release that was changed, as reported on Hunter Biden's laptop. You know, the laptop the FBI's had for about 2 years now and not releasing no big investigation on that. Just think about that for a minute. We had a president under impeachment for millions of tax dollars, which was a total hoax started by the Clinton Foundation. Why would they do that? I suggest it's a plot of revenge. Especially women. I'm sorry, women. Women can be revenge. Men can go out and duke it out in the streets and then go out and play a game of real. Not women. We hold grudges for years, decades, sometimes a lifetime. That's sad but true. So this leads us up into the current day. Election fraud. All experts I have listened to, including ones who testified before Congress as far back as the 1990s, agree that the 2016 election machines in key states were rigged in order for Hillary to become president. She knew without a shadow of a doubt that she would be declared the winner. She barely campaigned and had ratios of like 8-1 in money for advertising. She had been guaranteed the winner, and that's why she was so mad that the Trump supporters were more numerous than she had believed was even possible. Why do you think that is? Did people believe that Donald J. Trump would make a better president? Did they think he was less evil of the two evils? Were they just voting against the status quo politician running against a businessman? I think maybe running America is probably the biggest business in the world, but that's just me. I voted for the peanut farmer too. He was an outsider to the district of corruption and not liked by many representatives from both parties. He just wasn't one of them. I think I've told you before, if you don't know it, it's true. He was a Democrat for years and years and years and years. He ran a campaign, Make America Great Again. Personally, I believe that included getting rid of the cabal, even though he did not, or could he even dare to make a statement like that? My goodness, people think he's nuts. Some people think he was anyhow. Most of us just felt his executive orders, not even covered by the mainstream media, helped the majority of Americans. The majority of legal Americans. It was very impressive that he did not collect a paycheck and gave that equivalent amount to several different charities, which also helped Americans like veterans and addicts, many others. He did not believe in war, and he actually had many countries sign peace agreements to which he received 3 Nobel Peace Prizes. Was that ever covered in the news? Ay. Just remember who owns that news, why you're not getting the news or a slanted version of the news. Well, when you remember who owns the news, you understand they. I hate it when people say they. When I say they, I'm referring to the cabal, the deep state, the elites. George Soros, Zuckerberg, Google, all big tech. I could go on and name names forever. Who they are. They spent billions of dollars to get the media to hate Donald Trump. Every single word he said, everything, it's just too, well, I can't even find a word. It just blows me away. In the land of the free and home of the brave, we have propaganda, news. What the heck is going on? Wow. Common sense would tell you it does not make sense what they were doing. The constant rhetoric from the media. That's another reason why I went down that rabbit hole. Why would they do that? These people are beyond evil. Beyond. There's good, there's bad, and there's evil. These people are evil. You'll find out as you start researching for yourself. And again, start with Robert David Steele's website. Great place to start. Check out his intelligence blog. Read some of the books he recommends. They're all free online. Better than what you see on television. Certainly a lot more informative than the news. So now we are up to a rigged election. Yep, I said it. It was rigged, fraudulent, whatever bad word you want to use. Do you think that's possible? Do you think you ought to hear why so many people think it is possible? Why are they saying that? Well, I'm going to tell you why if you hang in here. If you only watch the news, you wouldn't think it. But why do you think so many Americans are upset? The difference is that people who are upset think for themselves. People who believe everything that they hear on the news do not think for themselves. So let's start with Mike Lindell, my pillow guy, who's been also battered by the media. He made an absolute proof documentary that the cabal refers to as a conspiracy. Thousands of witnesses, affidavits, and experts have come forward. He laid it out really well. If this information was not a threat to the cabal, then why would they threaten so many of the witnesses? Some people actually lost their jobs. Some people were shunned by their family and friends. Attorneys and their families were threatened who were on legal teams. This is why what they are great at. Lie, cheat, steal, threaten, and or eliminate. Some say we are in the middle of World War III. Another great person who is working on a documentary movie right now is Cynthia Mckinney, another wonderful American woman I highly respect. She's appeared as a guest on Robert David Steele's podcast. She's actively involved in election integrity. She has a great story that you should take the time to listen to, what happened to her in Atlanta, Georgia. It will open your eyes to just how long this election corruption has been taking place, and for years. It's like, let's practice on all the senators and congressmen and representatives, and gee, that works so well. Let's step it up a notch to the presidential elections. She has a great story even about a sheriff who came to her for help because they did the same thing to the sheriff. I guess your resume doesn't matter anymore. It's if you're in with the cabal or deep state, you're our guy or gal. Otherwise, we don't want to hear from you. American heroes like General Flynn, Sidney Powell, Patrick Burns, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Maria Barcelona, Greg Kelly, Ann Vandersteel, several governors, a few senators, Doug Collins, Scott McKay, Meg Crail, Lynn Wood, Judge Jeannie, Juan O'Savin, Dr. Charlie Ward, The list goes on and on and on and on. These are all the people who really made a difference because they're fighting for us. And you need to start going to some of these channels and watching and listening to these people to get a handle on what's going on. So if they stole the election, well, how did they do that? Gateway Pundit, Epic Times, OAN all have had articles and videos of all the damning evidence. Hundreds of witnesses reporting to state election committees with their eyewitness accounts of what was going on, and I've watched several. Mail-in ballots by the millions. No folds. How could they be mailed in if there was no folds in them? What, they mail ballots out in letter-size envelopes? I don't think so. If you've ever received a absentee ballot, absentee, like you requested it. These mail-in ballots, nobody requested them. I have a niece who received 5 of them in the mail. I call people. I ask people what's going on. That's what puts my little antennas up that something's wrong. Something's amiss. Who needs oh wow. So the mail-in ballots, millions, no folds. No folds. Seeing people rerun ballots several times. No signature verification, no ID in states which, look at me. I'm old. I have to show my ID every time I buy a bottle of booze. But I can vote without any ID? Not in Florida. Thank God they corrected that when they found out all the election fraud that went on years ago here. But we still have a ways to go because it's my understanding we still have some Dominion machines in our state. They need to go. They all need to go. Hand ballots, more volunteers, whatever it takes. I don't care what it takes. It has to be legal votes, not dead people, not illegal people. The list goes on and on. The very worst is the outside interference from other countries. Can you believe that? Domestic and foreign. Where did I hear that before? Oh, yeah. It was probably in that Constitution. Fobs were seen changing hands. Millions of votes all switched in the middle of the night. Thousands of ballots shown us on camera only had Biden's name. No other candidates, no other issues. I don't know about you, but in my area I had a few issues to vote on besides just the president. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I saw a video. 3 vans were caught with mail-in ballots in the middle of the night, and all 3 license plates belonged to union representatives in Michigan. Now, yes, I do know what union, but I'm not going to say because I'll be bashed for that too, but at my age I don't really care anymore. Even the Detroit City Clerk's van, which I had her name written down, was on the side of one of the vans in the middle of the night, full of these quote-unquote mail-in ballots, no folds. If it was legal, why would they care that they're being watched? Why would they do this in the middle of the night? Why did they shut the machines down? All of them had problems. I think one place said they had water leaks or electrical problem. They came up with all these lame excuses. 1 or 2 we might believe, but hundreds of them? Like them covering the outside windows in Wayne County, Michigan? Really? There are several cases where they found missing memory cards. They didn't need a memory card to run, I guess, because they were, preloaded, or what was going on there? Election material is supposed to be held for 22 months, and yet in Fulton County, Georgia, they were caught with truckloads of shredded ballots. Later they said that they scanned all those ballots before they loaded them and shredded them. Who knows? How in the hell can you do an audit with such a mess? And recounts? Listen, common sense tells you, if they count them wrong the first time, are they going to count them wrong the second time? Or the third time? Excuse me. Should have grabbed a bottle of water. Sorry. Tucker Carlson had a guest on, Dr. Robert, I Einstein, I hate to say his name because it's like the bad guy from the island, but he explained that he and his team of 700 people planted. They had a heads up. They figured something was up because if you followed the 2016 election, you'd know something was going on. So they planted 700 people in key areas all around the United States, and they observed a lot. He stated that Google probably got 6 million votes for their liberals just by posting their vote reminders. They posted vote reminders only to liberal search engine users. Remember Google, yeah, that's a better name for them. Google collects data. They know everything about every single person that uses Google. I just don't want to even say their name, do I? They collect our data, they sell it to other companies, they use it for marketing, they use it for all kinds of things. So they literally buy candidates through grants and initially received money from CIA, whom Google was supposed to share all their collected data with, but that never happened. Just follow the money. The Georgia governor and secretary of their state took money from China to throw the election, according to several sources. An attorney in Nevada stated they found 15,800 votes from people who had already voted in another state, plus hundreds of dead people's votes. Many of us have seen the video of the Dominion founder boasting that he can change 1 million votes. Just like that, no problem at all. I watched that video too, come out of his mouth. Michigan, good old Michigan, my home state, had more votes than registered voters. How does that happen? Hello? Doesn't that put a little antenna up? Doesn't that automatically qualify for a recount? Governors, secretary of states, election officials, and some mayors also received payments from communist China, and all payments have been tracked. That's according to Robert David Steele, who says we have it all. But the Supreme Court didn't want to hear about it. Does that mean it didn't happen? Sidney Powell has presented several cases proving that it is statistically impossible to have 300,000 votes all tabulated for Biden exactly at the same time between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. in several states and counties. Her cases made it all the way to the Supreme Court, where they refused to even listen to her case. They don't want to hear the evidence. Meanwhile, the media reports there's no fraud and that all cases have been dismissed. Really? Really? Clint Curtis was a whistleblower 15 years ago. 15 years ago, he testified before Congress regarding the Dominion machines and how easy it was to flip votes. Well, I guess Congress said, wow, now there's a good idea. We can flip them to the candidates we want. The evidence is overwhelming, people. Overwhelming. Truck drivers who crossed state lines with fake ballots and didn't know that they were hauling them, didn't know what was in the back till they got to their destination. I'm just going to mention a couple names here. When you start following the money, these two names come up over and over and over. Either it's Soros and Gates, or Soros or Gates. A Chinese whistleblower gave information regarding a shipping company called SF Shipping, who printed over 5 million ballots, all sent to 3 states, Michigan, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. California announced that 53 out of 58 counties, the ballots could not even be counted, as they violated their own election rules. Then you wonder how Steen, whatever, Schiff, Waters, and Pelosi keep getting reelected term after term when people know they're corrupt. Even Taiwan was protesting in the streets with Stop the Steal and Fight for Trump signs. Why do you think that is? My belief from what I studied is they're afraid of uh, China Communist Party taking over their party and their Taiwan, their country, and they just feel that the United States of America, that used to be a free country, used to be home. Well, it's still home of the free and the brave. It's just, and we are the minority. The problem is we are the majority. As the problem is right now that the minority is ruling underneath the Communist China Party rules. And as you don't believe that, more and more freedoms are being taken away by pen every single day. Patrick Byrne reported that in the seized Dominion machines, the experts who audited them stated they had a ta-da-ta-da 68% error rate. Ron Johnson, who is the head of the Senate federal hearing on election fraud, had a heated discussion with other members of the Senate regarding addressing all of the irregularities and the state election laws which were violated. He said that numerous videos and testimonies have surfaced of the depth of this fraud in many states. Mike Patrick, I forget where he's from now, anyhow, he stated that judges are afraid that if they did the right thing, what would happen? If certain people or groups don't get their way, they riot in the streets and kill innocent America. Nothing to see here, folks. Just move along. Just keep sitting there with your cocktails, enjoying life while our country is being destroyed. This situation is so bad that Texas actually wrote a bill called Must Be Alive to Vote Bill. Must Be Alive to Vote Bill. Common sense? Psh, out the window. You just can't make this stuff up. You know why they wrote it? They found they had over 4 million dead voters voted in their state. Kansas and Missouri took action to purge their records of deceased people. 3 Georgia poll workers with 4 decades of experience were fired for being whistleblowers. Joseph Good stated that actually they found 9 states with more voters than people registered to vote. Democrats overplayed their hand and got caught, but yet it doesn't seem to matter because they have so many people in their pocket, like the media, celebrities, judges, and politicians. Colonel Phil Waldron, who's retired U.S. Army living in Texas, he stated that George Soros, through all his open society groups, established third-party organizations moving all around the world. Evidence was presented to Congress regarding the 2003 proven country election fraud, and Congress again ignored it. Kind of like they ignored all the expert witnesses and virologists and all the people that were testifying to them about the pandemic. Staple Street is the company who bought Dominion UBS Securities in 2014. This has been a cyber attack, and our government was asleep at the wheel. Who protects us anymore? It's not our 3-letter agencies. One president, one man can't do it by himself. We better get elected officials in there, representatives at our local levels, starting and getting all of our states in order. We're rather lucky here in Florida with Governor DeSantis. Maybe he's bucking to run for president. I don't know, but he's done a pretty good job overall. I've had a couple of criticisms. No one's perfect. No one. Why is there a gag order on a man named Dennis Montgomery? He was the software designer and former technician who sold federal officials the computer programs to begin with. Constant lying and covering up. Comey? How are you saying his name? Comey. Comey. That's better pronunciation. Isn't that short for communist? Comey was the person who sold hammer and scorecard systems to the CCP. China, Italy, and Pakistan have all been proven to have interfered with our election. And I think there's two other places. I'm pretty sure that, well, I know UK was one of them. Oh, yeah, Canada. Sorry, all my friends in Canada. I love you dearly, but your prime minister is not one of the good guys. 66,000 ballots were found in Georgia cast by underage voters. Gee, is it a coincidence that they're trying to pass a bill right now to lower the voting age? Got to get them while they're young. Not enough of them are going to college where they can poison their minds about hating America. Let's get them in high school where we can really get them against families, against marriage, against right to life, against religion, faith, against it's terrible. And we'll be doing a video on all of that later. There's so much. There's just so much exposed out there. So very, very much. 139% of the entire population of Detroit, Michigan voted. How is that even possible? More than 400, these are all facts that have been proved. Sidney Powell, Mayor Giuliani, Lynn Wood, among others, have all proven this stuff. But the Supreme Court doesn't want to hear it. Why? Why? Who oversees them? More than 400 ex-intelligence officers have investigated election irregularities, according to the Epoch Times. And even Navarro stated that a 6-person team was briefed on hundreds of state senators who were in on the election theft. Juan O'Savin has a copy of the Dominion Manual. He read some of the pages to us listeners. You can preset these machines for the outcome you want. What happened to cause a panic? To change the numbers in the middle of the night? The machines have proven that President Trump had an overwhelming 80% of the vote, which is quite unheard of. They absolutely panicked, and they had to come in to shut the machines down and change the votes. Kevin Freeman from everylegalvote.com. You can go to their site to research all the things they've uncovered and what they are also doing to fight rigged elections. General Flynn released a statement that this was massive voting fraud, and it is an embarrassment to our country. We're supposed to be the leaders in the world. This is worse than what goes on in third world countries. Wake up, America! 18 states joined Texas. 18 states joined Texas in the Supreme Court lawsuit against Michigan, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania over fraudulent elections. Of course, the Supreme Court ignored that, and we need to be asking ourselves, why would they do that? Who is fighting for the majority of the American citizens who are legal registered voters? Former Filipino lawmaker and attorney stated that the Smartmatic machines were preloaded machines with ballots before Manila elections and had been used for at least the last 10 years. Perhaps the very saddest story is the one from Fulton County, Georgia, where a young man who was dating the governor's daughter was killed in a very bizarre car accident. His vehicle was hit from the side. Then there was a large explosion and his engine was blown over 75 feet from the accident. His name is Harrison Deal, and he was killed on December 5th, 2020. Later in the Georgia investigation, the police officer in charge of that investigation committed suicide. Really? Did he? Antrim County, Michigan. Everybody knows that story. We had a hero up there who she was handed a flash drive to run through the machines, and little did they know she had already pulled the original votes, and she had them stored. And when Patrick Burns and his team of volunteers showed up, she turned them over to them, which it ended up in Sidney Powell's hands, who again, she's been threatened a number of times. Dominion hammer was used in 28 states and absolutely should be banned in the world. Definitely here. Start in the states. Set an example. Be a leader like we once were. A college professor in 1998 also testified to Congress how easy it was to hijack the Dominion machine system. Zuckerberg funded groups exposed in paying for fraud in Georgia and Wisconsin. A Dominion representative in Georgia used to work for Camelia Harris. Now, let's talk about the positives and how we are making headway. And again, what can you do, which we've covered in previous videos. You can start by read The Art of the Steal by Peter Navarro, an American economist serving as assistant to the president. He also posted a 36-page report on the immaculate deception dealing with election fraud. You can probably look that up, find it. Go to DuckDuckGo though. Don't use Google. You can also read the book called The Deep Rig by Patrick Byrne. It also has, you need to read that one. It's very good. He has how he, General Flynn, and Sidney Powell crashed the president's office, got in to speak to him. It's very good. There's testimony and affidavits from thousands and thousands of people, true-blooded Americans from both parties, a lot of independents, a lot of people who just didn't even vote the last two terms because they didn't like President Trump, but they learned to like him once they seen what's gone on. You can also watch a movie called Kill Change, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things. They cross my desk all the time. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thompson released a statement of concern as he was not happy that the election evidence was not reviewed. People keep saying they throw the cases out. Do you understand? They wouldn't even look at the evidence? How do you decide at the Supreme Court level without reviewing evidence? Holy mackerel. Anyhow, according to Gateway Pundit, a group called Voter Georgia, it's actually Voter GA, won a court case stating that they can unseal the Fulton County ballots and inspect them. The ones that they still have, because that's the county where they shredded millions of illegal votes. Also, a judge in Michigan ruled that the Michigan Secretary of State Benson directed city clerks to ignore signature matching law on absentee ballots. Many people have been arrested and charged with election fraud all over. Recently, just like 2 days ago, it was announced 24 more people were charged in North Carolina. Sidney Powell stated that there was a flat-out fraud at several levels, and we are witnessing a total failure in every branch of our government. If you're not scared, you sure as hell should be. She will not quit because there is plenty of blame from both parties, and people need to know who the candidates are, regardless of their party affiliation. The rule of law was not implied by the Supreme Court, and that is both appalling and terrifying. For updates, you can go to her website, www.defendingthepublic.org. www.defendingthepublic.org. I'd also like to read something to you. the Supreme Court didn't think it was important to know this stuff or hear it either. An analyst of the packet traffic on Election Day was presented by the best forensic specialist Patrick Burns has ever met. He documented that 40% of the flipping came from China. They found this in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, and Georgia. The person who conducted the forensic evidence held an MBA and a BA of Science. He is a retired Army. He retired from the Army as a special technical operator and currently works as a manager of a cyber security company in Texas. His findings are, now, I think this one's pretty good. Not on the news, not looked at by the Supreme Court. Congress doesn't give a rip. And there were a few senators that stood up and tried to present different items like this and were immediately shot down. So who's left? We the people, the governors of our states, the people that we choose. Get on their cases, get on board. I'm only going to read you 6 of the things. Dominion owned by foreign entities, data went to Germany, Barcelona, Serbia, and Canada, where they altered and manipulated votes. The FBI and CIA, who also has this information, haven't done a damn thing with it, they issued a joint cybersecurity advisory on October 30th, 2020. They were aware of the Iranian threat to U.S. websites to include election websites. The CISA, which is Cyber Security Infrastructure Security Agency, and FBI identified websites. That's all they did. Did their job, didn't they? Fine job. Dominion and Smartmatic share a physical address in Barbados. Staple Street Partners, a private equity firm, owned Dominion voting machines based out of Toronto, Canada. The CEO, I'll kill his name, Hutan Yaghubazada of Staple Street Capital, was a confidant to Saddam Hussein, who worked for Saudi bin Laden Group. 18 patents were held on the Dominion machine by HSBC Bank Canada. 4 billion, I guess it is, I can't get past a million. 400,000,000 from UBS Securities, Chinese managed subsidiary of UBS Global AG, received a pooled investment fund. Not registered under the Investment Act of 1940, they declined to disclose issue size. Boxes were checked for federal exemption under Rule 506D, Investment Company Act Section 3 and 1 and 7, new notice, first sale yet to come. Does issuer intend this offering to last more than a year? And they checked no. Now, I have a background and I used to hold 3 licenses in security, so I understand this. All you need to know about that is the very last line. Does the issuer intend this offering to be more than a year? No. If you're a company on the stock exchange, any company, if you're going on the stock exchange, don't you expect it to last longer than a year? I wouldn't be a shareholder of any company that didn't expect a life expectancy longer than a year. This is crazy stuff. Last but not least, he found that Pakistan-based business intelligence firm with ties to the ISIS emails with the Nevada Secretary of State sending voter registrations to Pakistan. I think we need a moment of silence and prayer For all our warriors out there, just remember, we the people means all the people, no matter what your faith, your gender, or your color is. Respect your fellow Americans and be kind to your family, friends, and neighbors. Have as much fun as you possibly can, but still understand the seriousness of what's going on in America and find out ways that you can help. That's your Sunday morning briefing. Common sense.